Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Making Swordland Solist again, where we have an emergency meeting. The mood in the Situation Room was gloomy. My cabinet members were gathered to discuss the shooting outside the palace. Leias presented the initial report. Bernard Circus was shot dead at 9:03 p.m. in front of the palace gates. He was an elected independent member of Assembly and, as you know, a famous communist. She spat the last words out with some distaste. Ah, those dastardly communists. The guards at the scene were 50 meters away and immediately took action by responding and killing the assailant, who was identified as a member of the nationalist organization Young Swords. Obviously, a false flag operation by the communists. At least that's what we're gonna. That's the theory we're gonna go with, because the young swords are gonna be useful idiots for our plans. The president and his family were unharmed, praise God. An MP shot near the palace. That's absolutely unacceptable. I agree. We are re-evaluating our security measures. However, the recession has affected my ministry negatively. This may well create a dangerous atmosphere where the left versus right political violence of the 1920s could spark once again. A return to those days would be devastating. The coups are the reason why our country stagnated for a decade. Nia Morna, the Minister of Justice, sighed. The Red Youth has condemned the killing but didn't stop there. They promised revenge. This will in turn spark further aggression from the Young Swords. The whole cycle started because Bernard Circus expressed his views. We simply can't look away. Nia had always been one of the only members of the Justice Ministry truly deserving of the name. She had survived countless attacks on her character while fighting corruption within the ministry, and rising to power had only compounded her sense of moral duty. Freedom of expression is part of our constitution. We can't have anyone, let alone an MP, shot for voicing different opinions. Yes, the Malinivist ideology that the Red Youth promotes poses threats to our country too. We should be cautious. Agreed. We are always watchful of internal threats, like the banned Communist Party members who support a similar agenda as the Red Youth. These groups wouldn't resort to unconventional means if there were represented in our assembly. The high electoral threshold and bans are making these factions extreme. Minister of Defense Joseph Lancia grunted in disapproval. He towered over the rest of us in full military uniform. His many war medals conspicuously on display. Don't be stupid, woman. Seriously, Joseph, for fuck's sake. Role-playing as a soloist. Okay, get back into the headspace. These organizations speak against the state. The labor union of Swordland is also in the same boat. I shouldn't be surprised if United Contana had a hand in supporting all of them. We should refrain from making an issue a political one from the start. It will only add fuel to the fire. It is political, though, isn't it? Yes, but we need to calm the country. If we take sides, we could escalate the situation further. There aren't many sides, the state versus its enemies. Several police cars rushed past the Maroon Palace and everyone went silent. Regardless, a full investigation into all involved parties is underway. We will find these subversives and punish them soon enough, Mr. President. I'll do my best to help coordinate the administrative tasks. Justice will be served and the rule of law will return to this country stronger than ever. Only if we stay vigilant as a country, we must think about the upcoming budget. Yes, I agree. Internal stability must be maintained. Our security funding might need to be increased. I'm sure the Minister of Interior has already taken the necessary precautions. You can be assured that our police units and intelligence units are on increased threat condition. Nobody should be able to move a finger against government officials. Lucian took some notes after checking the latest newspapers and reports. It seems that the tension between the communists and nationalists will escalate further. It will be very difficult to pass any meaningful change if there is chaos in the country. Yes, whoever is against the state is an enemy. We will prevail. We are here to stay. Yes, much longer than our term limits. This will be it for today then. We will convene again soon. Thank you all and keep us updated. The meeting concluded and the ministers left the room with concerned looks. It was hard to anticipate what would happen next. Okay, security increased. MP shot. Build necessary for democracy, of course it was. Off we go to chapter 2. Shall we? Okay. Reports. What the hell? Dismiss that notification, thank you. Okay, Weapon Season Cultural Center. Listens, they're staffed. Yes, things are great, aren't they? Yes, everything is fantastic. What's on the news? Politician shot dead. Unity despite differences. Okay. Everything's going fine. Okay. Let's have some nice calming dinner with our family, shall we? After a long day at the palace, I was finally home. I thanked Serge and walked through the front gates, nodding at the two guards as I went by. Even as I turned the doorknob, I could hear Dina rushing down the stairs to greet me. I opened the door and there she was, standing in front of me with expectant eyes. Papa, you're home. Ah, yeah, there's my beautiful princess. Dina can do no wrong in our eyes. It's Frank that's the fail son. I lifted Dina up and hugged her while trying to put the keys in the tray next to the entrance. She was growing fast. Lifting her up was no longer as easy as it once was. How was school? Boring. I liked my old school better. I put her down and helped, and her expression turned serious. Papa, are the bad men gone? Yes, I will never let anyone hurt you. Ever. Okay, Papa. Dina dashed down the hallway. Mama, Papa's here. Monica appeared next to the kitchen door. She was wearing an apron and holding a spatula in her hand. Dina, what did I tell you? No running in the house. Yes, Mama. Monica approached me and kissed me on the cheek. A tantalizing smell wafted from the kitchen behind her. Darling, you shouldn't. What do we have a cook for? I felt like going grocery shopping, just like old times. And besides, I can't make your favorite. She can't make your favorites like I can. You mean? Yes, svabili. Svabli. Svabli was a classic whole-sort delicacy: vegetables and creamy sheep cheese sandwiched between thin layers of dough. It was absolutely my favorite dish, especially paired with kebij, a potent, unfiltered wine from Bergia. Where's the kebij? What, you and Peter didn't booze it up enough back in the palace? Anyways, I just wanted to cheer everyone up a bit. Her smile faded and she lowered her voice so that Dina wouldn't hear, especially after what happened after ball. I'm worried, Anton, for you, for the children, and for the country. Dina suddenly appeared next to us. Mama? Yes, sweetheart. I'm hungry. We'll eat in just a minute. Will you help me set the table? Anton, can you tell Frank to come down for dinner? He's been sulking in his room all day. Monica started taking out the plates while I headed upstairs to fetch my son. Loud rock and roll music echoed down the hallway from his room. I caught a faint hint of cigarette smoke. The bastard. Okay, knock on the door. Come on, still be respectful. I knocked on the door. There was no response. Frank turned down that racket and opened the door. The siren in Frank's room clicked off. All right. He unlocked and opened the door. What do you want? Yeah, hand over those cigarettes and join your family for dinner. You smoke, don't you? I'm old enough to do what I want. Oh, you bastard. Oh, you fuck. No, you do not just talk to me like that. We're soulless, Rain. We're not good parent, Rain. As long as you live in this house, you'll do as I command. We've tried being a good parent in previous playthroughs. That's not this playthrough. Frank heaved a sign, handed me the packet, and headed downstairs. I followed him into the living room. The table was prepared, and Monica was ladling food onto the plates. Come on, have a seat. It won't be a Stacy if it's cold. As we started eating, the room went quiet. Monica's cooking was delicious as ever, but I had the feeling that wasn't the reason nobody spoke. Monica was the first to break the silence. Say, did you know that they refurbished the grocery store? I don't know if you remember the owner. He's been here every day for the past 30 years. Can you imagine doing the same job for so long? What if we were president for 20 years, for example? One can dream, can't I? Honestly, would that really be so bad? Monica measured me with her eyes for a moment. Anyway, the grocer really is a nice person. He threw in some extra vegetables with my... Frank suddenly slammed his hand on the table, rattling the plates. Monica, Dina, and I stared at him. So this is how it's going to be? We're just going to sit here like nothing happened. Dad, you could have been killed. Mom could have been killed. Any of us could have died. Dina's lower lip started trembling. Monica put her hand on Frank's shoulder. Do not raise your voice to me, young man. No, Frank, you know I would never let anything happen to you or Dina, even if it costs me my life. I know, but still. Can you at least tell me if something's being done about this? It was really close, Dad. My security assured me that they took all the necessary steps. The same security that let a person get shot in front of the palace. Frank, listen to your father. If your father says we don't need to worry, then we don't need to worry. You have to trust him. Monica turned to me. We all have to trust each other. Things calmed down a bit at the table. We finished our food in silence. Frank got up first and retreated back to his room. Monica lifted Dina up and plopped her in front of the living room TV before returning to the table. She sat down across from me. Anton, he is still young. Yes. Yes, that's what worries me. I made plenty of rash decisions when I was his age. You can make plenty of rash decisions now, too. Frank's not the only one who's scared, Anton. I promise if there's truly any threat to this family, we'll be the first to know. She got up, stood behind me, and massaged my shoulders for a moment before leaving me alone in the dining room. I sat alone at the table and drained my glass of cabbage. Had I been lying to Frank and Dina, was the threat to my family truly over? Time would tell. Okay, CSP, workers' rights, more communist propaganda. Okay, security briefing. I arrived in front of the doors leading to the Situation Room. Today's security briefing was arranged in two parts, starting with internal matters and moving on to external matters after a short break. The Minister of Interior, Leleas Graf, and the Minister of Justice and Law, Nia Morgan, would join us for the first part, the law enforcement briefing. For the second part, the Minister of Defense, Josef Lancia, would join with a few high-ranking officials, including the Chief of the Armed Forces, Volker Kruger. I opened the door. Lucian, Nia, and Leleas rose from their seats. Sir? Okay, let's begin. Everyone in the room sat down except for Lucian. He put on his glasses and went through the documents in front of him. Shortly after, he raised his head and addressed the attendees. Mr. President, ladies, we will kick off today's meeting with the internal security briefing. I am assuming everyone has already been over the agenda. We all have busy schedules, but without further ado, I will jump into our first topic. As we fear, the political atmosphere has worsened. The reports around the country indicate that tensions are rising as we feared. What is the status on the Bernard Circus investigation? I received news this morning that the investigation into the murder of Bernard Circus is concluded. Please enlighten us. The more we know, the better. After further investigation, the testimonies we confirmed the motive and also the events, we have confirmed the motive and also the events leading up to the shooting. A few days prior, members of the Red Youth initiated a violent attack on a Young Swords local leader in Jen. We believe the Young Swords then called for revenge, leading to the death of Mr. Circus. There it is, it's the Red Youth's fault, obviously. Since we often spoke against the Young Swords and nationalist sentiments in the assembly, he was a big target, not to mention his radical communist views. Yes, the Red Youth are clearly to blame since they triggered it, obviously. They struck first, yes, it was obvious that there would be a retaliation. Elias handed over the report and pointed at a highlighted section in this document. The investigation revealed a very troubling fact. The funding sources of the Red Youth have a clear link to United Contana. We maybe don't want to mess with the United Contana, but the Red Youth, sure, but not really mess with the United Contana. They might come in useful later. So, are you absolutely sure? Yes, we have found a cash trail. Several Red Youth members with ties to United Contana have been detained, and the information extracted from them points to a preparation for a communist uprising in Swortland. It is unusual for the superpowers to influence other nations, but I think this case is a little far-fetched. The left lacks popular support in Swortland. Nia eagerly lifted her hand. I motioned for her to speak. I went over the report in detail. It would be wrong to jump to conclusions about a clear foreign interference yet. United Contana has humanitarian and cultural ties with many countries, including Swortland. Yes, yeah. I also don't want to jump into conclusions. I will very happily continue to play both sides, internationally at least. We shouldn't create a crisis with them. Nearly 3 decades ago, they funded General Ricard and tried to establish a communist dictatorship in our country. If it was not for Colonel Sol, we would have seen the real crisis. She took a sip from her glass of water and continued. Our police chief, Carl Gracer, has linked the funding channel to the United Contana Consulate in Benfey. As we all know, the enemies of Swortland are many, but we also have threats inside the country. Yes, we need to remain vigilant. If we give up essential freedoms to purchase temporary security, we deserve neither freedom nor security. That's a very nice thought, Miss Morna, but I'm in charge now. This is debatable, but yes, we know what more security and surveillance caused to this country under President Sol. Yes, it was a utopia. We'd prospered under Sol, and we should go back to it, obviously. Let's not forget that President Sol, God bless him, brought stability after a long period of bloodshed and chaos. But moving on, our highest internal threat comes from the estimated 20,000-strong Bloodish Freedom Front led by the imprisoned Dowlin Arge. They are a banned political organization, now a militant force that is trying to incite racial violence. Those pesky bloods. Also, why can't they just assimilate into the local culture? Never mind that they are the local culture in the... Nope. Nope, Solist here. um, are they cooperating with any Bloodish political organizations? Many suspected links exist between them, the Bloodish Freedom Front and the Workers' Party of Blodia, but we don't have concrete proof yet. Elias pointed to page 3 in the report. Our intelligence intercepted 2 crates filled with weapons close to the Rumberg border. They were filled with military-grade K-74s. We expect that more have been smuggled in. A group of Bloods were caught with these guns at a checkpoint not too far away. The governor of Bergia, Felix Braun, is already taking the necessary measures to counter the threat. Rumberg has been acting aggressively in the region for a long time. I'm not surprised that they would attempt to weaponize the Bloodish people against us. This is worrying, very worrying. Hmm. Uh. What should we do? What should we do for now? Can we make any direct correlations between BFF and Rumberg? Not yet, but we have suspects that indicate such a correlation. This is grave news, but we must be careful not to stoke the fires of anti-Bloodish sentiment. Oh, it's fine. I'm sure citizens of Sorland are level-headed and will not turn to racism at all, and I'm definitely not going to use that for political advantage or anything like that. It's fine. Unfortunately, Governor Braun is directly causing the tensions to increase with his increasingly anti-Bloodish stance. I must remind you, Governor Braun is directly responsible for the arrest of Dolan Arga, the previous leader of the BFF. It is true that his methods can be extreme at times, but it was his policies that kept the region peaceful over the last decade. He is misusing the powers given to him by Tarkin Sol. The insane authority of the governor is surely a root cause. It wouldn't be very difficult to revoke the special status of Bergia. Under the current circumstances, Ms. Morna, the presidents no longer have the authority Tarkan Sol enjoys. It would be very difficult, okay. For now, yes, but with enough justification for it, it would be possible. Anyways, we will be discussing this at a later time, and maybe I will have the authority Tarkan Sol enjoyed. So, Bergia has always been the region of chaos and trouble. We must be careful. As you know, Bergia has given a special status by Tarkin Sol after the full-scale uprising of the VFF against the Sordish government in 35. Those couple years were disastrous for Bergia. Dolanarga and the BFF declared war on us, openly attacked our people, and occupied entire cities. It was a massive uprising, but I'd like to point out that the longest time they were in control of a city was 2 weeks. I wouldn't call that an occupation. Despite the arrest of Dolanarga in 44 and the BFF ceasing its activities, the special status of the region were never revoked. Today, the special zone of Bergia gives the governor insane amounts of authority. He was in trouble with the law before for not following the central government's authority. Unfortunately, Bergia also has its own police forces not directly commanded by Governor Braun. They are not part of my ministry and only cooperate when they are forced to do so. This is a problem. Even though our forces have the authority to serve in Bergia, the special zone leaves the security of Bergia mostly in the hands of the governor. That leaves my hands tied. No, we must obviously return to the strength of the to the strength of the central government, obviously. Sure. We must reverse the situation. It's absurd that the Ministry of Interior doesn't have the full control over Bergen security. I agree, I have some ideas about it already, but we can talk about that at a later time. Nia gestured at Elias. What is the second most important threat? It is the gang violence that is threatening the Nargis and Angline regions. 2 prominent organized crime families are at war, and the potential for bloodshed is real. And why can't we just arrest them? The primary reason is deception and corruption. They infiltrated several government offices and the police. That's how they can evade us. Yes, they are playing with fire. I want them gone for good. While I agree it would make Sutherland a better place, it will not be easy. These gangs exist because corruption is so common in our country. They buy our police forces and slip by checkpoints. This cannot be. Corruption should only exist in my office and nowhere else. Elias Graf sighed deeply. I shall be honest with you. With our current capabilities, we may not be able to prevent the further arming of separatists while maintaining order in Bergia, Nargis, and England. If the law enforcement budget isn't increased, I can't be fully responsible for what happens. Our police units are spread thin as is. Sure, in light of this information, I might increase the law enforcement budget. We will rid our country from separatists and violent thugs if you do so. I wish you would stop using the word thugs, Elias. The real problem is corruption, which is fueling the gang violence and is likely the reason why these weapons were smuggled in. A higher budget could help us end that. Uh-huh. Yeah, these threats seem more direct than a few bribes. Like, a couple of bribes never hurt anyone, right? They are, and they need all the attention they can get from our administration. Elias and Nia were openly scowling at each other. Elias turned back to her notes. Well, this concludes the topic for the internal portion. Thank you for the updates, Miss Graf, Miss Morna. Thank you for the overview. Have a good day. Until next time. The two ministers left the room. We took a short break before continuing the second part. Upon invitation, Josef Lancia, along with three high-ranking officials from the Ministry of Defense, walked into the room. One of the men was none other than General Kruger, the chief of the armed forces. Josef made his way toward the table while the others stood by the door. Mr. President, Josef, welcome. I brought General Kruger with me due to the escalation on our borders. General Kruger stepped forward and saluted. He had a strong jaw with sharp cheekbones. His tall, statued uniform and medals, combined with his deep and intense stare, made him look threatening. He was in his 70s, yet he had a bulky body that was a result of his commando training. Not only was he the second most decorated officer in Swordland, he was also the longest serving. General Kruger? Hey, Mr. President, it is an honor. Josef tapped his foot impatiently. He seemed uneasy with the presence of another high-ranking officer in the room. Gentlemen, thanks for coming to this significant gathering. Let's begin. Josef and Vulcan took their seats at the table, with the rest of the officers stood by the door. Mr. President, the situation at the western and northern borders toward Rumburg is very tense. We are observing deployments of divisions closer to our border. Rumburg has been acting increasingly expansionist in the past decades, and also interfered in Agnolia, but now they have turned their sights on us. This concerns me very much, of course. We are observing these areas actively. Our contingency plans are ready. It seems like they want to increase the presence both externally and internally. Mr. President, if I may. Please, General. The picture is becoming clearer. The latest information from the interior about the weapons caches, and now there is an active military buildup close to our borders. The entire situation was analyzed by our general staff, and our prediction is a future territorial incursion by Rumburg. Yes, I have complete trust in the general staff. We will not let you down, Mr. President. The general staff is composed of the smartest military individuals. Of course. What's that they say about military intelligence being an oxymoron? Or being a contradiction in terms? which is what oxymoron means. Never mind. I require an increase in the military budget to enlist more soldiers. Only then we can stand strong against our enemies. The enlarged armed forces will hold them at bay. Vulcan is right. We do need an increase in the military budget, although we don't see eye to eye on exactly how to spend the budget. That much we agree on. That's why I've been saving up money. I have my concerns about Rumburg too. We need a strong allies to withstand such a superior power. They are our nemesis. That is an understatement. Times are changing and war is coming, Mr. President. Whether we like it or not, we must be prepared. Do not forget that during the election you promised to focus on the military. I expect that word to be kept on the defense of our nation. Of course, a man of my word, Yusuf. Of course you are, and that is why I follow you, Mr. President. The only way we can guarantee the national survival is through a more capable military force against Rumburg. Our country hasn't fallen to any invading forces for 200 years. You cannot let it happen, Mr. President. Yeah, I'm sure I totally didn't let it happen on the last playthrough or anything like that. We should find regional allies like Valzlan and Lesbia to deter Rumburg. There are several options on the table. I mean, we must stand on our own 2 feet. We cannot ally ourselves. We can play off both superpowers, but we can't ally either. We must remain independent. Sorland must stand on its own 2 feet and be able to defend itself. On the same mind, sir. We stand strong as we've always done. Everyone fell silent when a soldier entered the room and let Joseph Lancia know that a call had come through from the ministry. Excuse me, Mr. President. Joseph left the room to answer. A few minutes later, he entered the room again. His expression had changed. Mr. President, there has been Rumburgian military activity close to the Narbel border. I just spoke with the local commander. Vulcan, we should go to the ministry and get further updates from our branches. Understood, raising military readiness is the first call of action. If there is truly an extraordinary attempt, we will relay it to you immediately and wait for further orders, Mr. President. Okay, sure, make sure they know we are observant and ready. Always watching, always ready is our motto, sir. Hail, Swordland. Hail. They saluted and left the room. Rumburg was already testing us, and the reports from the interior indicate interference inside our borders. Communists, nationalists, Bloods, rebels, Rumburg expansionism, what was next? Sorland had always been a key piece in the chessboard of the global rivalry between Abkhazia and United Kontana, but in the recent years there was no such aggression from Rumburg, not at these levels at least. All it takes is one tiny spark to start the flames of war. The phone rang. Rumburg had decided to close their consulate in Latchhaven. Ah, the bastards. Okay, first ICBM, that's lovely. What could possibly go wrong? What else is new? Protest across Sardland. More protests. Criticisms of economy, gang violence. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. It's just the media's fear-mongering. Okay, what next? Should react to the unrest. We will, of course, be a man of the people, and we will show that we cannot be deterred. These unruly elements do not scare us. We will be with the people, and the people will be with me. We shall visit the affected towns in person. Okay, and the end of the day at the Maroon Palace is going to have to be left for the next episode. Thank you all very much for watching. As always, I have been Pope. Please do remember to like, comment, and indeed subscribe. I will see you all next time.